In this video, we're going to take a first look, or an overview, if you will, of ON1 Photo RAW 2023. There are a number of new features in here. There are some enhancements to some old features. And if you're interested in this, check the description box below. I've got a coupon code for you to save 20%, but we'll talk about that later. Right now, why don't we go ahead and get into this. Hi, my name is William Beem. I'm a photographer just like you, and you can find me at the cleverly named website, williambeem.com. I'll have a link to that in the bottom down too. All right, let's see what's new and what's happening inside of ON1 Photo RAW 2023. There are a few key features here I wanted to make sure that you're aware of. We're going to go over these through the video. So the first one is photo management. If for some reason you're looking for something besides Lightroom to do your photo management, I think this is a good contender to have a combination of photo editing features, but also some very good photo management features. There is keyword AI, and this is happening on your computer. It's not going off to something else to find this information, but basically it suggests keywords for your photos, and it's in a different section, so it doesn't clutter what you already have. You can add all of the keyword suggestions, or you can just pick some and add those if you want them, or you can completely ignore it. Super Select AI is a way of letting the AI identify different things and objects inside of your photograph, selecting them, and then you can make adjustments or filters on those. Mask AI is similar, and I'll show you the difference between the two. Tack Sharp AI is their sharpening service, and it combines that with their NoNoise system. So you can apply noise reduction, you can apply sharpening, or you can combine them both together. And they do a very good job, each one of them. There is a content-aware crop. So in other words, if you need to change the crop to something that is outside of the photo, then it will use content-aware technology to try and enhance what fills in the rest of that crop. And then, of course, there is Sky Swap AI. They also include several skies from Occudrone, which are some of the most beautiful skies I've seen, and I think you're really going to like them when you take a look. Okay, so here we are in ON1 Photo RAW 2023, and let's start off with what I was talking about with the photo management stuff. So as you can see with the default view here, you can add a catalog, which I've done here for, you can see the path over here from my hard drive, my user account. Under pictures, I've got a folder called demo that I use. So I've added these into the catalog, and you can see it right over here. If you want to add more, you can just simply click the plus, select your photos, and go ahead and add one that way. There is a cloud sync feature. They have albums and smart albums. You can think of these as the same as you did if you're using Lightroom, as collections and smart collections. One of the things I like about a tool that has smart albums or smart collections is that there may be things that you want to find without having to drag and drop something into an album or make sure you manually add it. And this works very nicely. So you can see that you can create some saved searches, and it's got a few over here, like based on stars, liked or disliked and so forth. And you can also find something within the afternoon captured this year, today. So you can have some date-based searches. I think these are nice to put in here. But what really gets me is the ability to create your own. So you can choose, all of the following rules, any of the rules, none of the following rules. So whatever you want to create. But let's add a field. You can start off and it says everything. But let's say that I wanted to do this by keywords or their keyword AI tool. So I'm going to choose that. And then you've got these options over here, like is or is not, contains or does not contain. So I'm going to look for contains, and let's say human. And you can see how this has changed. So now we only have photos in this search that shows up with a human in it. So in other words, anything that was just animals, anything that was just maybe a travel or landscape shot is excluded. And you can go ahead and create this just as you want. And if you decide that you don't like it, right over here, there's a little button to delete it. And now we're back. So you can see I have things that are human, non-human, and so forth. So that, to me, is one of the things I look for in a photo management tool, is if I can have smart collections in Lightroom or smart albums here, that is an enormous undertaking. You can also search things by date if you want to. So you can come over here and click down and select which year, And then let's say if we look at 2019, you can see it by month and keep drilling down. So those can be handy. And also you can see what you have for your recent photos. And it also supports tethered shooting. If you enjoy doing that, you don't have to tether into Lightroom. You don't have to tether into other applications. Now, if you want to tether right into ON1 Photo RAW, because that may be your main service, then you've got that capability here. You also have a browse capability. So you can have some favorites. I've got Dropbox, Google Drive, and this OneDrive, which is Microsoft. And then you'll look at your local drives. This is one I have on a Synology drive. You can show your albums, what's recent. And then we come over here to presets. We will get into these presets a bit more, but for the most part, a lot of these are going to be what you might expect. So if I have a photo selected, let's say this one, and I make it Golden Autumn, there are a number of choices I can have over here. And you can see how it's changed that. And we'll go back to this. I want to take a look at this AI adaptive presets, and we will get to that. But before we go there, let's take a look at the Super Select AI. Okay, so I've got this photograph from Seattle at the market, and we can come over here to Super and click on that. And you can see from this little thumbnail down below, it shows you that you can select if there are people there, 1 or 2. But what I'm doing is I'm hovering over areas. And let's say that down here, I want the road. I can select a car, and I can click that once and then maybe click another one. And I can click all the cars individually and click them again. It'll take that off. But what I'm going to do is very simply to show this, I'm going to click on the road and it turns blue. That is my mask. And I'm going to right click. And then you can see that you can make adjustments, or you can add a number of these different filters. So let's say if I go for dynamic contrast and grunge, you can see that it's automatically gives you a preview. So I'll just go ahead and click on that. And that's what I have down here. So it's changed the texture and the tone a little bit of this kind of cobblestone brick road that's right in front of the market. So that is Super Select, and it is, I'd say these masking things are outstanding. They're not always perfect. So if, for example, as you see, when I've selected the sky here, the background over here isn't selected. So there are tools in here where you can fix and correct that with some of the masking tools and some of the refinement tools. You may occasionally need to go back and clean up the AI, but for the most part, it gets it and it does a good job. If you take a look down here, you can click on Reset All, Reset, which is just the previous change that you made. So I'm going to click on Reset, and then you can see that's taking that away. You can hit Cancel, and it'll just drop any of the changes you made and go back, or Done if you want to accept the changes. I'm going to hit Cancel because I don't want to make any changes to this, and we'll come back over here. And next, we want to take a look at Mask AI. So I'm going to select this photograph, and I'll click on Edit. And this is where we get a chance to make some changes for the Mask AI. So if I wanted to come over here and add a filter, let's say we'll go into Effects, we'll add a filter, and you can see we can apply things to man-made ground, which would be the road, natural ground, water, if there were any here, the sky, the mountain, or nothing at all. So I'm going to go ahead and select where we go, man-made ground. And again, I'm going to do something like dynamic contrast. And it's going to add a filter. There are some presets over here. So if you want to go with surreal or soft, and there's more that you can come over here. So there's a texture enhancer. I'm going to leave this alone. And then I'm going to come down and just see if I can't make some changes to that road. So I can change the highlights. I can change the shadows. You can see how that's kind of darkening when I drag it this way. It's brightening it when I change it that way. And you can also change the dynamic contrast, which is the tool that's selected. So let's start with the medium, and let's say we pull this up or back. You can see how that's kind of changing. So the more I drag it over to the right, the more contrast or texture it puts in there. And then you can kind of play with a small, medium, and large on this particular filter to kind of tune this into where you want to. So that's a quick look at how the Mask AI works. Basically, you can do it when you add the filter, or we can click on this mask, and let's reset this. Another thing to do is to click here, and then you can come down here to Mask AI. And again, you've got the same choices. So you can do man-made ground and click apply and then take a look. So what is done here, when you choose it from this menu, it is protecting the man-made ground and selecting or allowing any changes to go through the rest of it. So if you want to affect the road, you're going to have to invert it if you did it that way. So you can probably see how the change affected it. If I invert this again, take a look at the sky and these rocks over here, and you can see how that's kind of affected the dynamic contrast on the stones, but not on this because of this mask. If you remember, white reveals, black conceals. So just something to keep in mind. If you click on the mask here inside of a filter, by default, it's going to be protecting that, not enhancing that. So you may have to come in here and click invert. So we come down to the bottom, we're under develop, and you'll see noise and sharpening. So I want to show this. And then we've got all these things over here. So let's go with no noise. And I'm going to click over instead to Tack Sharp. Now, no noise on this photo probably doesn't show a lot because it's not really a noisy photo, but I want to take a look at Tack Sharp for this one. And you can see the difference in this rock face as far as how sharpened it gets. So the items on this side on the right are sharpened, and this preview is, before the sharpening. Another way to do it is come down here. So this is our original, and this is with the preview on. So the rock face got, just a bit more sharpening on it, and you can go ahead and sharpen this all the way up, and I can drag this down. It'll soften up a bit. We've got a couple other photos. I'll take a look at doing some changes on that. So let me cancel this and get you something with some noise in it. So this photo was taken in a concert environment, and there's definitely some noise in the background here. I'll probably have to go ahead and fit this a little bit closer in. And I'll bring this up. So you may be able to see the noise on his skin and the noise here. So if we come down here to NoNoise AI, and I'll drag this over, you can see the difference on his skin and also back here on this backdrop. So the noise comes away, and you can kind of change the luminance noise. You can enhance the detail and also eliminate the color. But there's also an option for sharpening in here. So we'll bring that up, and you might be able to see it on the microphone. Give you a little before and after. And notice it looks like the microphone's moving just a little bit, but it's kind of changing or warping things slightly. So this is without any of the no noise, and this is with it. And you can definitely see the sharpening going on here. Now you can do that. You can do Tack Sharp without the noise reduction, and you can definitely see how the noise came back over here that was being hidden by no noise, but it's also much sharper. Well, what happens if you want to do both? You can click on that. And sometimes you have to move this line back and forth if you're using that view. And now you can see we've got a very sharp microphone. We've got no noise in there. And all we have to do is click apply, and it's fixed that. So, and that's sharpened everything in here. We didn't do any masking on this particular one, but that's something that you can keep in mind. It's like if you want to pick and choose where you do it, you can mask your subjects and then choose where you're going to be sharpening. So that's a quick look at no noise. Let me cancel that and get out. And let's take a look at the content aware crop. All right, so I'm going to select this photo, click edit. And let's say that I want to change her position relative inside of this. Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to come over here and select crop. And you want to choose content aware. And then over here, I'm going to drop this down to 25, maybe 50. And the reason I'm choosing 25 is simply to give me some room to kind of drag these little handles. So what I want to do is I want to make this just a little bit bigger so that her face is dead center. Not exactly the composition I would typically want, but all this area over here, that's what the content aware crop has to fill in. And you know what? Sometimes it works perfectly. Sometimes there are areas you may still have to clean up. And that's essentially what happens with AI tools. So I've chosen the composition I want. There's a lot to crop in here. Typically, I don't think you would do this much, but I kind of wanted to challenge the system. So let's go ahead and click apply and give it a moment. Okay, so that took about 1.5 minutes. I'm on an M1 iMac with 16 gigs. For the most part, you can see I got the result that I wanted, except for this up here. And this is choosing, you can see her arms that are kind of wrapped around the basket over here. And that's what I meant when I kind of stretched this a little bit further than usual. It's looking for things to try and bring in. Now, we might be able to fix that with our retouch tool. So we can choose if we want to heal that or if we want to do a clone and stamp. I'm going to try and see what happens if I use the healing brush on this. And again, that's a large section for a healing brush, but let's give it a little try. And you can move the area around that it's sampling so you can see how that fits in. And it's chosen the spot that it thought was best. So I'm going to leave that here, and you can see where the seam is over there. And I'll just click done. And just like that. So it didn't take too much to correct. The AI did make a bit of an error because I really pushed it, with the size of the content-aware fill that I wanted to use. And it was very quick and easy to fix. So now I've got this photo in a different area. There might be some things that you still want to come back and look over. I would recommend that you do it if you ever try to do that much of a content-aware fill. But it works. So that's kind of a nice thing. Now, the next thing I want to take a look at is the sky swap. So let's go find another photo. All right, so this is a photo. It's Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. And I'm going to reset everything because when I took the photograph, it looked like that. Plain, boring blue sky. This is a perfect sky to try and correct or replace. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to click sky. And you'll see that it gives you some options right at the beginning. You can come down here under sky and there's a category. And then underneath the category, there are different skies that you can choose. I mentioned that they have these occudrone skies. So if you take a look at some of these choices in here, I think they're very beautiful. And then there are more in each category. So you can take a look. And as you hover over them, it will show you what the preview looks like inside of your main viewer there. So let me just come down and find one. I think I'm going to go with this one. Maybe not. Maybe this one. Yeah, I'm going to go with that one. Now, sometimes you may need to have a reflection. If there's water underneath, you can click this and you can choose the blend mode that you use. You can choose the amount. In other words, you can kind of back off if you need some transparency. And you can shift it vertically. So if it's not hitting the horizon line just the way you want to, there are tools here. But I don't need this since there's nothing to reflect off of. You can change the lighting that's with it, and you can choose a color. You've got a number of things over here where you can shift the horizon. So let's say if I move this up and down, you can see how that's affecting the horizon. And I've just double-clicked on the title here to get it back where it was. You can change the opacity. So maybe if you want to blend with your existing sky, you can do that. And then you can fade the edges around your subject, which in this case is not helping me. So I'm going to reset that. And you can also shift the edges. And you can see how that's kind of affecting and darkening around my subject. So again, that's not helping me. You can scale it. So in other words, if you need to make it bigger, now these are 8K skies, at least the occudrone ones are. So they can scale very nicely. And of course, you can level them. So if you need to tilt them, because maybe you took your photograph at a bit of an angle, you can do that as well too. You can change the warmth. So we can cool these down or we can warm them up. You can change the brightness. So if you need to darken your sky or brighten it up, you've got an option for that. If you want to add some haze, you can really kind of haze things out. Or if you need to blur your sky for some reason, maybe you want it to look like there is something that helps your subject stand out, you can do that as well. And you can change the angle of the blur. There's also some options for lighting that you can kind of move that around, as you can see. So it's getting dark on the foreground here and it's getting very light on the foreground. And you can change the edges and the distance. So if we change the edges, you can see that again on those statues, how it's affecting that. If you change the distance, I think I need to have my edges on possibly for that. All right, I'm going to be honest. I don't know what distance is doing. It's not helping me here. But that's a really nice feature to have. It does a great job of putting in a sky. There are some places where it doesn't do a great job. So let me show you another photograph. So this photograph is one that I took obviously, of the Capitol building in DC, and this is a raw file. You can see there's glass here for a reflection. If I come in here and want to put on a sky, let's choose a sunset. I'm not going to be picky about it. I actually kind of like that one. So I'm not seeing a reflection down here. This warm spot that you see was actually in the photograph. But I can tell you, looking at this tree over here, it did a really great job of masking that out. I think there's maybe a little bit of haze around here, and we could fix that up kind of with the refine tool. So let's first go down to the reflection though. And as I turn the reflection on, nothing. It doesn't show reflections on glass like this, which is not a common thing that you find in a lot of places, but it's one of those things that I would expect to see. If I'm going to believe this sky replacement, I expect to see the sky reflect here. On glass, it's not doing anything. And I can change the amount and nothing's happening. I can shift it vertically and again, nothing's happening. We would see the reflection change over here. So there are times, I guess, when the AI doesn't recognize something that you want to change. So you have to look at that. Now, if I want to take a look at this mask and I want to refine that, let's see if we can do anything with the refine tool. And that is getting rid of the haze that we have over here. This refine tool is, in my mind, remarkable. It's one of the best that's out there. So you have to take a look at your mask, see, are you getting some haze or something around where the mask wasn't quite perfect? And you can see how it is really cutting through and showing the sky. And you're seeing where your mask maybe wasn't quite as good as it should have been. And that's the mask that it chose. So if I come over here and we view this mask, you can see there is a gradation here that's showing up. And when I'm adding the mask, it is pure white through that. So that's why we're seeing this little change. So we can come over here to turn the view off. So let's try something different here. Let's just reset everything. And let's say mask. We want architecture. And that looks like it's a little bit tighter. So let's apply that. And then now let's put on our sunset and see what happens. And I'd say that looks much better. So we'll take a look at the mask. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. Nope, I'm wrong. You can still see that there is kind of a gradation around that. So that's something that you may want to look out for to see if you're getting something that doesn't look quite right. If there's a gradation around it like that, you may have to come over here and change the feather, and you can definitely blur that up. Or if you work with the levels, you might be able to tighten that up. And I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time trying to get to it, but that's the tool that you would have to try and change what your mask looks like. And as you can see, the density is how dark it's going to be inside of there. So that is where AI tools can suffer a little bit sometimes, that maybe the mask gets you 98% of the way there, and then you may have to do some work. And those are the major features of this. Overall, I am really pleased with the tool. It does a lot of work. If we want to take a look, let's say over here at portrait, let's go ahead and edit this one. I didn't bring this up, but let's bring up the portrait tool. And you can see these little blue dots tell you if something's on or not. So you can see if the skin was on there. And then you can drop down to see, do you want to handle any blemishes? You've got a choice for skin smoothing, whether you want a surface blur or frequency separation. And I think most people prefer frequency separation. It is a better way of handling things. And you can see that let's zoom in here a little bit more. And hold down the space bar to get the hand so I can bring this up. And let's just go take a look at our preview. So that's before. And that's after. So you can see there's a little bit of change there. So I'm going to close up this. Now, as far as the face, you can brighten the face up if you want to, or bring it down. You can do a slim face, which honestly, it depends on what kind of portrait you have. Sometimes this one's on a gray background. It's not such a big deal. But if you have somebody and you slim their face and there's a noticeable background that's maybe on a location, you might warp the background a little bit. So be careful with slimming the face. You can also change the eye size. So sometimes if you have a photograph at an angle, you might find that one eye looks larger than the others. Now, when it says left eye, it's affecting the one that is on your left. This is her actual left eye, but it's affecting this one over here. So kind of remember that when it says right and left, it's according to your view of what you're handling. On the eyes, you can change the brightness. And I'm going to take this all the way over to show you that it really can get crazy. But not only does it get crazy with the eyes, take a look at the bridge of her nose, and you're brightening that up as well. So be very cautious and judicious with this. Same thing with eye whitening or the sclera. If you go ahead and whiten that too much, it looks like laser eyes. I do like the detail. So if I'm looking in her iris, again, you can take it too far, but that just gives you a lot of room. And sometimes you have a photo that needs a bit more help than others do. If you have someone with dark circles underneath their eye, then this is a good way to reduce that. And again, there's just a little bit of shadow there, but it's kind of pulling that shadow out as I move this over. There's a different mask on eyebrows, and I've seen different tools with brow enhancers, and notice how it's getting very, very dark. One of the things I've noticed about these tools, they don't work on anyone who's not a brunette. In other words, if you got a blonde or a redheaded subject and it makes their eyebrows look black, then that's not really what you want. But maybe just a subtle amount on people with different hair color works. But that's something that it does very well here. With mouth, I don't have any teeth in this photo. You can change the vibrance. You can change the brightness. So I can darken her mouth, or I can really brighten that up. If I change the vibrance there. And also you can change the hue, which is the color of the lipstick, a little bit. And it might take a moment to do that. So I'm not getting a lot of this. And sometimes this is another issue with AI. If for some reason it's not detecting her lips, just as it wouldn't detect teeth because there are none there, then you're just not going to get any results from that. So if we click on our mask here, you can see that, it's looking for, it thinks the background is architecture, it's looking for people. And you can see that it has that, but the face or portrait tools over here are doing their own masking. And that kind of gives you a look at what we have there. So there are a number of effects. I'm not going to go over all of them, but I just wanted to show you this, that all the tools that you're used to seeing inside of ON1 is there, particularly dynamic contrast, the glow, and the cross process or the color enhancer. These are just wonderful tools. Even the skin retouching, I'm really happy with this. You can add a sun flare or something, and there's several of these sun flares or sunshine tools in here, or even something simple but necessary like a vignette. So those are all there. If you click over here on local, that's going to give you the usual adjustment tools. And again, you can choose a mask over what you're going to do, whether it's the architecture, which in this case, the background, or on people. And always click apply, because otherwise I've made that mistake a number of times. I forget to click apply and then you don't do anything. But then you can choose, there's some presets for whether you want to lighten or darken or add vibrance. And you've got your usual controls for the exposure, contrast, highlights, midtones, shadows. You can add structure. You can add a haze, which on most portraits I wouldn't do. You can add noise. You can change the color temperature. Silly me, why am I not seeing anything? Because I have this on black. And now we can see the changes where I've changed the exposure. Oh yeah, that makes a big difference. So I'm really, really screwing up her face right now. It's a good thing that she's not watching. But those are, I'm doing this to extreme to kind of exaggerate, but show the point of what you can do. And if you want to, you can just reset everything right back to where you started. And that, I think, gives you a good idea of what you have inside of the tools here. You've got your levels tools. You can get information on the photograph. You can add star ratings, color ratings, all the wonderful things. I think there's a ton of stuff in here that I'm not able to go to on one video, but I'll do some more videos diving into these. Also, a lot of these tools are available as plugins. I've already done a video on a tool called ON1 Effects. And I'll do another one on portrait. They have resizing and HDR and a number of different things. The idea is ON1 Photo RAW has everything built into it. All the tools that you need are here. It can work as a standalone program. You can also launch it from inside of Lightroom or Photoshop, but everything is here. If you get something like ON1 Effects, it's called a plugin. It's still a standalone program, but it's really best handled through Lightroom, Photoshop, Apple Photos, a number of things. And that's the idea behind the plugins, is that they can do what they do, and you can get just the program that you need, or you can go ahead and get a bundle of things. And if you're interested in getting something from ON1, I've got a coupon code and a link that I'll have in the description. The coupon code is the same as my first initial and last name. It'll be WBEEM20. And that will save you 20% off. There's a couple ways to buy this. You can just buy the tool that you want. You can buy a bundle. They also have subscription plans, so you'll get a discount on that as well too. They're like every other software company. They're doing different ways of letting you have it, whether you want to have it in a subscription for a year, or if you want to buy this particular version for a perpetual license. So you've got options if you want to do it. And like I said, my coupon code will save you 20% off of that. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it helped you understand what ON1 Photo RAW is and what it can do for you and all the benefits that you can get from it. I think it is a great standalone tool. I think the tools inside work very, very well. And even though I showed a couple of cases where the AI got fooled, that's the way AI works these days. It is never going to be absolutely perfect. I'd say for most photos, you'd never even notice the difference. But every once in a while, you're going to find something that you might need to go back in with the retouch tool or the refine the mask tool and fix up. And I wanted to make sure I showed you the good as well as the bad over here. But this is definitely something I use. It's something I recommend, and I hope that you can enjoy it. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. Again, my name is William Beem from WilliamBeem.com. If you like this video, please go ahead and click the like button. That really helps the YouTube overlords know that I did something right. They will share this with more people, and that helps the channel grow. It's something that I genuinely appreciate. And I will see you again in the next video.